Hello. I think one more, but it's not like, yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Medcon 2025. So we still have some visitors and everyone trickling in. So we're just gonna give it some, like 10 minutes, and we're waiting for speakers. So stay tuned, and we will start shortly. Hello, test. Louder.
You go lower?
Hello, test.
Do this one.
Hello.
Hello, test.
Hello, test.
Yep. Go lower. Give me a test once again.
Hello. Test.
Yep.
Test.
Okay. Okay, everybody in the back, can you hear that, or do you want louder?
Hello. Okay, thank you. Yeah, they weren't like, they were just like trying to give me advice. So like, if you want to do it, like go for it. But from what I've seen, the lifestyle is the best.
So my final thing before we start, I was supposed to schedule the award ceremony after everything is done, but I think that's a little bit inconvenient for those of you who like have their other commitments. So we are just giving you your flag and your head right after you speak. Is that okay? So just right after you're done speaking, say a couple words and we'll take a picture with you. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MedCon 2025. My name is Sonika Pilli, and I'm a rising senior at Seneca Valley High School. And it's such an honor to be standing here today as a conference chair for an event that means so much to me and clearly so much to many of you too. And it's an event that I've been wanting to put together for a while now, and seeing it come together like this is very exciting for me. So thank you for everyone for coming. Today is all about connection. We'll hear from physicians, students, and advocates who've taken different paths into healthcare. Whether you're here to learn, ask questions, or just figure out what this world means for you, you're in the right place. Before we start, I'd love to thank a few people who helped make this event happen. To my parents, thank you for believing in me. I truly couldn't have done any of this without your support. To Ms. Padmini Nirumolu, thank you for being the one I could count on from everything, from logistics to pet talks. To Dr. Kiran Naidu, thank you so much for spreading the word and bringing such a diverse community. And to Mr. Shrikant Namburi from Elite Corporate Headshots for events, thank you for being here to capture it all. Now, here's how the day is gonna go. We'll kick it off with our opening keynote speaker, move into our guest speaker sessions. Our panel discussion comes next, following a short Q&A, and finally, we'll wrap things up with our closing keynote speaker. Please silence your phones unless you would like your ringtone to be your surprise sixth speaker. And if you're posting anything online, please use the hashtag Medcon 2025. So without further ado, let's get started. To start us off strong, I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Zsanai Epps. She is a public health expert, educator, and policy advocate who has spent her career pushing for reproductive justice and health equity. At the Black Women's Health Imperative, she leads national programs that blend leadership, advocacy, and research, all focused on improving the lives of Black women and girls. She holds a doctorate and a master's in public health from Morgan State University, where she also teaches. And her research has centered on how major policy changes, like the overturning of Roe v. Wade, affect Black communities. Her insights have been featured on Forbes, Rolling Out, and the Houston Defender, and her work continues to inspire change on a national level. We're so honored to have her with us this morning. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Zsanai Epps.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you all and to see you all today. This gathering is not just about learning and networking. It's also about discovering your power to help shape a future of healthcare that's accessible, equitable, and just for all. Each of you has the potential to inspire change, and it's the responsibility that we all share. Again, I am Dr. Zsanai Epps, and I currently serve as the Interim Executive Vice President for the Black Women's Health Imperative. We are a national organization that was founded in 1983 on the campus of Spelman College with the intention of supporting Black women and girls across the life course. This cause is deeply personal to me because it ensures that I'm able to make an impact on the community in which I am a part of. My journey at BWHI started out as an intern when I was an undergraduate student. And then it started again when I went straight into my Master's of Public Health program. And I said, well, I wanted to work with Black women. And so I was able to convince my preceptor at the time to let me come back to the Black Women's Health Imperative because I knew that was the work that I wanted to do. So then while I was almost wrapping up my master's, I was offered a full-time role. So I've been with the Black Women's Health Imperative since. And I like to share that because where you intern at, where you volunteer at, could be where you really hone in on your career path. So I just always like to share that. And I get volunteered a lot by the founder of the organization, who's 80 plus, still actively engaged. And I'm able to bring some of the work and the vision that she had in 1983 to life today. So this morning, I will share a vision where each of you have the power to transform a system that too often leaves many people behind. We will explore how education, equity, and advocacy can ignite lasting change. So I'll start with the power of education. That's the tool. All of us have gone to school or in school currently. And so education is the foundation for transformation, not just for our growth, but for systems we seek to improve. It's the key that unlocks the doors, provides opportunities, and empowers individuals to make real change. When I began my public health journey, I quickly realized that education wasn't just about memorizing facts or following academic pathways. It was also about gaining the insights needed to address the disparities in healthcare systems, particularly those that impact marginalized communities. Sorry, I talk loud, so let me move this like this. For example, my doctoral dissertation, which focused on the impact of overturning Roe v. Wade on Black women who are pursuing public health degrees 1 year later. And it highlighted the fact that public health issues are deeply connected to educational systems, policies, and even the personal lives of individuals who choose to go into those professions. My research reinforced the importance of using education as a tool to inform and challenge these inequities, and I believe that as future leaders, your education will be critical in pushing those boundaries as well. However, when we look at the public health workforce, it's facing some critical challenges right now. The Association of Schools and Programs in Public Health estimates that over 80,000 public health professionals are in the U.S. currently. Yet there is a severe shortage of diverse voices in the field. 2022 data from the CDC reveals that nearly 40% of public health workers are expected to retire within a decade, creating a massive leadership gap. The time is to act now. You are the future of healthcare leadership, and education will provide you with the key to enter this field to drive change and ultimately transform the systems that we currently have. And then there's no secret, in today's political climate, these challenges are growing. From reproductive justice to healthcare access, we are seeing critical programs being defunded and protections being rolled back. As future leaders, your education must prepare you not just to navigate these challenges, but to help reshape them. As Audre Lorde wisely said, there is no such thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives. The issues we face are interconnected, and your education must equip you to address these multifaceted challenges. And so, building on the foundation of education, the next critical piece is equity. We can have all the knowledge in the world, but it means little if you do not translate that into a healthcare system that serves everyone. Think of this scenario. Imagine you're in a hospital waiting room, surrounded by people from different backgrounds. Some of them have the luxury of seeing a specialist right away, with their insurance covering their costs for advanced services and care. They are given the full range of treatments, the latest medications, and the top-tier resources. Meanwhile, others wait for hours, even days, for basic care. When it's their turn, they are met with a general practitioner who has limited time and resources to address their complex needs. They are handed prescriptions that are not covered by their insurance, with little guidance on how to afford them. Their medical conditions remain untreated, or worse, misdiagnosed, because they were given limited options from the very beginning. This isn't just an unfortunate occurrence. It's showing the inequity of the healthcare system that we are faced today. And that scenario is actually the lived experience of many people in this country. Access is not only about being able to have a doctor's appointment, right? But it's also about receiving the level of care and attention that enables a person to have optimal wellness. This disparity doesn't just exist in hospitals or our doctor's offices. It is deeply ingrained in our healthcare system. When you examine health disparities data, it serves as a potent reminder that these inequities are not abstract concepts, but instead real lives affected by lack of quality and consistent care. Healthcare must be equitable, not just in access, but in the outcomes we achieve for every individual, no matter their race, gender, or income. And I want to turn to advocacy to wrap things up, because the final and most critical component of our work and my work has been advocacy. As future leaders, advocacy will be one of your most powerful tools for change. Healthcare leadership isn't just about making decisions from a high office or a clinical setting. It's about using your voice to advocate not only for yourself, but for others, and for the systemic changes that are necessary to create equitable healthcare systems. So think of advocacy as a bridge. You have self-advocacy, which is the first part of that bridge, when we learn how to advocate for ourselves, whether it's in a healthcare setting, whether it's at school, or in communities. We establish a foundation of power that is built on self-confidence and empowerment. I've worked with young women throughout My Sister's Keeper program, which is in its 10th year. And we teach them how to advocate for themselves and demand the care that they deserve, and push back against those systems that aren't designed for them. I'm proud to have written letters of recommendations for medical school, law school, and other areas that intersect with our daily health. Their journeys highlight the profound impact of self-advocacy, commitment to making change, and also using your voice. But while self-advocacy is essential, it's not enough on its own. Policy advocacy is equally vital, as it works to change the systems that govern healthcare access and quality. Policy advocacy is about standing up for those who may not have yet joined into the fight or need encouragement to see others demanding change to policies that deeply impact and perpetuate health disparities in their lives, and pushing against those systemic changes. Healthcare is under threat, there's no secret, and the policies that shape our systems continue to exacerbate these inequities. You don't need a title to be an advocate. You can start today with your voice, your passion, and your leadership. And as Toni Morrison said in her documentary film, The Piece Is I Am, she stated, "I think the function of racism is to distract you from what you really should be doing. But I think that the function of the artist is to take on the most difficult things and do what you can with what you have from where you are." So whether that's through self-advocacy, policy advocacy, or both, you can start today from where you are. Your work will matter, and it will shape the future of healthcare for all. So as I close, I want to remind you all that the future of healthcare is in your hands. The challenges we face are significant, but the opportunities are greater. Through education, equity, and advocacy, you are the ones who will shape a healthcare system that works for everyone. You possess the knowledge, the passion, and the drive to make a meaningful difference. And I am excited to see how you all will lead us into the future, where healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and where everyone has the opportunity to live a healthy life. Thank you for your commitment to making the world a healthier, more equitable place, and the world is waiting for the leaders you all will become. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Epps, for that powerful talk. Your voice is real and powerful. It's raw. Thank you so much for being such a lovely opening keynote. Please join me in the center of stage for your plaque.
Thank you. Okay, we got one second. Sorry, I don't have one dimple.
Next, we'll begin our guest speaker sessions. Each speaker will have a few minutes to share their experience and advice, and you'll hear a wide range of paths within medicine. So let's welcome our first guest speaker, Mr. Rithvik Gundlapalli, an MD candidate at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. His background in health sciences, public health, and entrepreneurship drives a unique approach to care that blends research, advocacy, and real-world impact. Beyond the classroom and clinic, Rithvik is committed to building stronger, healthier communities. His work focuses on expanding education and healthcare access in under-resourced areas. He brings a thoughtful, solutions-driven mindset to every challenge. So please welcome Mr. Rithvik Gundlapalli.
Yeah, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Great. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Rithvik. I'm a third-year medical student at the University of Virginia. And so Sonika asked me today to talk a little bit about my experiences as a trainee in medicine, as well as some of the things I've learned in medical school. And to start that off, I want to tell you a little story that I actually just is very recent. So I'm a third year, I'm doing my clerkships in medical school, which is where I rotate through all the different specialties. And this past week I finished my time in the neuro ICU. So it's a place where all the patients are very sick and they are all struggling in their healing process with some sort of neurological disease. And every morning I wake up, I go to the hospital around 5:30 to check on my patients before I talk about them during rounds, which is when we all discuss as a team what's going on with them. So no one is awake at 5 o'clock in the morning, and one of my least favorite parts of medicine is waking up my patients at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. But I've gotten used to it. I walk up to one of my patients' room, I knock on the door, I wait for them to kind of open their eyes a little bit, have to shake them up. But this time was a little bit different. So I was taking care of a patient who was healing from a subarachnoid hemorrhage, which is a type of brain bleed. And so they're not very responsive, but she was lying in the bed, opened her eyes when I woke her up, and her husband, who was sleeping on the couch next to her, got up, joined the conversation, tried to ask me what the plan was. I was trying to give them a little bit of advice and let them know what the plan for the day was. And as I left that room, I realized something that I actually had not realized in the entire year and a half that I've been doing this. That space is so intimate. You would never walk into someone's living room or someone's bedroom where there's like a couple sleeping together and one of them is healing from a disease, and you can't just knock on the door, walk in, and then say, how's everything going, right? You expect them to have their own time. They're sleeping together. And as I walked, I realized that doctors, medical students, physicians, all these healthcare workers, we have a privilege that no one actually processes because we're so overworked, and all day I'm thinking about my grades, I'm thinking about my education, I'm thinking about my mentorship, all that stuff. But you don't actually stop to think about what you're doing in real life. So I learn things like that every single day, and I want you guys to take forward the path of no matter what you end up doing in the future, don't forget to stop and think about what is actually happening in your day-to-day life. How are you impacting the people around you? And so I have 3 main pieces of advice for all of you. The first is that success without wellness isn't success at all. Unfortunately, we are all growing up in a time when being overworked seems like it's a win, right? We live in a culture that celebrates exhaustion, and from the moment that someone thinks that they want to go to medical school, PA school, therapy school, any of the healthcare opportunities, you might be in high school, you might be in undergrad, you might be in your gap years, you immediately start working so hard. You want to do research, you want to publish, you want to shadow. Everyone says you have to have 3,500 hours of shadowing in like 45 days, and you expect that that's going to get you into school. But unfortunately, you realize once you get to the end of your goal that you're no longer able to pour anything from a cup that's been empty for the last few years. So what I want you guys to think about is that being exhausted isn't actually a flex. You should grind, and being on the grind is important because it's important to challenge yourself. But you should make sure that you stay well through that process. So protect your joy, protect your curiosity, and protect most of all your energy. Because if you don't have energy to take care of yourself, you don't have energy to take care of other people. And that's when you end up being someone who's tired, overworked, and then seems like they're not as empathetic as they should be, even if you want to be nice. Second, saying I don't know is not only acceptable, but it's admirable. When you're in high school, when you're in college, when you're in medical school, you are learning so much information. Every day, there's piles and piles and piles of information that's being thrown at you. And what you need to understand is you are not expected to know the answer to everything. Even when you're a doctor, the doctors who say I know to everything, but actually when they don't, are the doctors that hurt their patients. But the doctors who say, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do about this, but how about we work together to come up with a solution, are the doctors that will end up having patients make the most strides in their healthcare. So one thing that I ask you guys to do is, when you are in high school, as you go off to college, and as you enter medical school, don't try to be the person who knows everything. Don't try to show up the person next to you. Don't try to tell all of your attending physicians that you know all the answers. Instead, accept when you don't know something, because when you're asked something and the answer is I don't know, the answer to that question is one that you most likely will never forget. The things that I remember the most, the details about medicine and the care of the patients that I've done in the past, the ones that I remember the most are the ones when someone said, what's the answer? And I was like, oh, I have no idea. But then I went and looked it up, and then I told them later, and that experience really solidifies things in your brain. The third one is be kind, no matter what. And what I mean by that is you will encounter endless, incredible people. You'll encounter patients, you'll encounter physicians, you'll encounter workers. They're all amazing individuals. But more often than not, you will probably also encounter people who are not so nice. They might be impatient because they're overworked. They might be unkind because they've had an experience that you don't understand and they're trying to make you understand. Or they just might be outright mean. And unfortunately, people like that exist. But here's the thing. Being kind anyways is a quiet form of strength. In healthcare, we talk about something called transference and countertransference. And those of you guys who are in healthcare will understand that when you walk into a room, a patient is having probably one of the worst days in their lives. And they're not going to be in this space where they're going to want to provide you comfort, right? That's not their job. And so because of that, they might be mean, they might be a little frustrated. And what we have to do as physicians is understand countertransference. What is the energy that we're taking from them, and what energy are we giving back? So if I walk into a room and someone says, I've been waiting in this room for 45 minutes, I don't understand, no one cares about me, blah, 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 blah. Your first response is going to be, you're going to want to say, well, I've been back there taking care of the last 16 patients, and I've had to write 45 notes, and I've had to talk to insurance 6 times, and I've been working. But does it matter? They don't care. They're having the bad day. So stop for a second, understand what's going through their head, reflect on your own emotions and your feelings, and realize that this is not about you, right? You have time, you have your own support system, and that's why I said you should be well at the beginning. You need to find a way to keep yourself healthy as well. But by keeping yourself healthy, you can then understand what your emotions are about all the experiences you go through and choose to be kind in response. So I leave you with this. These are not just lessons and like reminders and things that I'm trying to tell you. I want you to hold these pieces of advice close like I have. There are hundreds of thousands of other advices that people will give you in the future, and you yourself will learn so many lessons. But it's important for you to stay grounded in who you are and who you're becoming. So I wish everyone the best of luck, and I'm always here if anyone wants to talk or get any advice about the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Rithvik, for sharing your honest and true story with us. It was truly insightful for us to hear about the things that no one really talks about, how patients really feel their side of the story. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Please join me in the middle of the stage to accept your plaque as a token of appreciation for me. Next up, please welcome Dr. Erkeda DeRouen, a triple board certified physician in family diversity and lifestyle medicine. With deep roots in digital health leadership and more than a decade serving underserved communities, she brings a sharp focus on healthcare risk management. Dr. DeRouen balances healthcare systems adapt to the growing challenges of digital healthcare, balancing innovation with regulation. She's a TEDx speaker, certified in the business of medicine and healthcare risk management, and works with organizations across all 50 states to build safer and more effective care models. Her work centers on improving clinical workflows, reducing risk, and keeping equity at the core of care. So please, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Erkeda DeRouen.
Gonna adjust this since I'm a little shorter. But,
You adjust it if you want more stupid one.
it's okay. Being a pre-med, you'll get so much advice. Tips on the best study methods, the best schools, the most comfortable scrubs. People will tell you how to succeed. Few will tell you how to survive. Some of you will save lives. Some of you will lead health systems. Some of you will work in research labs. And some of you will invent things that don't even exist yet. All of you will impact the world through your leadership, your compassion, your ethics, and your skill set. I won't spend much time on the technicalities of medicine. I'm not here to talk about test scores or applications, but I do want to talk to you guys about 3 things that will carry you forward when strategy isn't enough. Knowing your why. This sounds like the most cliche thing is all I like to start with, but it's so true. You'll get tired. You will get rejected. Someone will make you question whether or not you even belong. And in those moments, what will carry you through? It won't be your resume or your GPA or even your title. It will be the foundational reason as to why you do what you do. The thing that grounds you when you're exhausted. The thing that reminds you who you are when doubt creeps in. The thing that keeps you going when everything else is telling you to stop. The reason that you keep going when no one is there clapping for you. And if you don't know your why yet, it's okay. But don't settle for something that just sounds good. I definitely don't want you thinking that your why is that you want to help people. And absolutely do not put that in your personal statements, never. And I will say that because almost anyone can help someone through any profession. But why do you want to dedicate decades of your life to serving people through healthcare? Why do you want to compromise your health, your mental state, your fertility, your finances to help? You have to find something that means something. Maybe it's the way that your grandmother was treated in the ER. Could it be the clinic that closed in your neighborhood? Or simply curiosity, grief, hope, anger, whatever it is, name it, write it down, and revisit it often.
Yeah.
Okay. And work with going with the flow. But
I guess it doesn't like me stepping farther.
okay.
There we go.
All right, we're gonna try this again. Whatever it is, name it, write it down, and revisit it often. Knowing your why gives you direction, but walking that path requires support. Even the most driven person can't build something meaningful in isolation. So that's where number 2, building your community comes in. Or as I like to call it, your personal board of directors. Now more than ever, you need people on your team, people who are rooting for you. Not all mentors, not all sponsors, your people. Those that want the best for you. People who make you better, hold you accountable, and remind you of your potential when you forget. Maybe it'll be a mentor, colleague, teacher, classmates, your bestie, or even a family member. Those who check on you when you go quiet, those that you can call and vent after a long, exhausting day where perhaps you didn't know the answer on rounds and you had to go and your attending or your supervising resident wasn't as friendly as saying, go read it. Those who will make you close that book, go for a walk and get some ice cream with you. Surround yourself with people that will speak your name positively, even when you aren't in the room. Those are also the kind of people that you need to ask if they can write you like a good recommendation letter and not just like a recommendation letter. So check on that. Build your circle intentionally and carefully. Even with a clear purpose and strong people in your corner, life may still surprise you. I can almost promise you that it will. Plans shift, interests evolve, doors open that you didn't even know were there. And when that happens, you'll need something else. The ability to stay open. Being open to change, as this journey is definitely not linear for most, is so important. Some of you will become doctors, but some of you won't. And that's okay. Your desire may change, or life may present a different adventure. But I can promise you that every single one of you in here has the power to lead, to build, and to solve problems that matter. Remember that doctor means teacher, and the best teachers are students of change. You will spend the next few years absorbing astronomical amounts of information, but you'll develop skills to create pathways to success. Don't let someone else's path define yours. Being resilient and open to all of the possibilities that come your way is one of the most important skill sets. If I'd stayed on my original path, I'd be practicing full-time family medicine, helping patients live healthier lives. And that would be wonderful. That was my life's dream since I was about 3 years old. But I wouldn't be here speaking to you. I wouldn't have founded a company, advised startups, worked in health tech, written books, or led innovation strategy to help even more people live healthier lives on a higher level. None of that was my original plan. But every step eventually made sense because I stayed aligned with my why. Open to evolution. Open to becoming someone that I didn't know that I was allowed to be because a lot of naysayers were telling me, Erkeda, you're a doctor, do doctor things. This is why it's so important to find your people and build a strong community in your personal BOD. You don't need all of the answers today, but you do need these 3 things. Clarity, knowing why you're doing this. Connection, choosing your circle intentionally. And courage, which gives you the ability to stay flexible enough to grow. If you're waiting for permission, this is it. If you're waiting until you feel ready, you probably never will feel ready. If you're wondering whether your step into healthcare matters, it does. You could potentially change the entire landscape of healthcare by staying true to yourself. So, start with your why and don't stop until it means something.
Dr. DeRouen, you took what you said was a cliche and made it some unforgettable advice for the audience tonight, and I will forever thank you for that. Thank you for speaking and giving us a lovely guest speaker session. Please join me in the middle of the stage to receive your plaque. Next up, please welcome Ms. Lavanya Meduri, a BSMD student at the College of New Jersey. Lavanya is part of a select group of students pursuing a direct path into medicine, combining academic drive with a long-term commitment to healthcare. With a focus on service and science, she brings both heart and discipline to everything she does, and we're so excited to have her here with us today. Please welcome Ms. Lavanya Meduri with me.
Test, test.
One sec, guys. Anyways, I'll just start out. Hi, everyone. My name is Lavanya Meduri. I'm so excited to be here today. I first want to start out by saying I'm so inspired by the other speakers today. Honestly, everything they said, Rithvik, about being nice, that's the part that some people forget about being in healthcare. And Dr. Erkeda about having a purpose and knowing that that purpose is why you're there, and having that motivate you throughout your career is something that means a lot to me. And also for our keynote speaker, that was a really inspiring speech about helping groups that might not be represented as much. Thank you so much for all the inspiring talk. I know I'm also here as a speaker, but to even hear that advice was amazing, inspiring for me. I'm sure it was for you guys too. Now I want to start out with my speech. Like Sonika said, I just finished my first year of undergrad at the College of New Jersey. I'm part of a BSMD program, which means after 3 years of college, I'll go straight into a guaranteed spot at medical school, which for my program is Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School. It's designed for students who knew early on that they want to pursue medicine and who are ready to commit to that path from the start. So Sonika asked me to share my journey today so that you guys, if you're interested in any similar opportunities or just pre-med in general, you'll know how to get started with that. But long before I joined the program, or even fully understood what medicine involved, I was just a girl who was honestly really weirdly obsessed with the brain. Honestly, it was like a really crazy passion. You can ask any of my family members, they'll tell you. For example, in the 4th grade, we had an assignment to make a flag representing ourselves, our interests, our hobbies. As a 4th grader, my interests included biking, watching sunsets, playing basketball, and a giant brain. My hand is holding a brain, if you can't see. In the 6th grade, I made a past, present, future video where I had to enact what I saw my future self doing. Let's take a look at what I said. Hope it works. Well, the audio isn't working, but I said, finally, I found the solution to brain cancer. I enacted a whole video where I was mixing stuff in a lab, and I went to an operation room, tried it on a patient, and I found the cure to brain cancer. And in middle school art class, when I was given a lump of clay and complete freedom, I sculpted, can you guys guess what it would be? Yep, a brain. So yeah, the fascination wasn't exactly something that passed, it wasn't a phase. In fact, over time, that curiosity deepened. I realized I didn't just want to understand how the brain does work, I wanted to help people that were affected when it doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. And that's when my interest evolved into something deeper, which was a desire to pursue medicine. I started volunteering in a hospital, where I saw how even the smallest of gestures could mean a lot to a patient. Whether it's an extra pudding cup, a short conversation asking how their day was, or even just sitting there and taking a moment to listen. I also spent weekends volunteering at a memory care center, where sure, most of the residents didn't remember my name, but they did remember that a girl came every Saturday morning and helped them with their puzzles. They remembered that once a month on Sundays, a girl would come in and paint their nails for them. And I'll never forget how their faces lit up as they looked at their freshly painted nails, and nothing could wipe the smile off of my face on those days either. All these experiences helped me realize something vital. Medicine isn't always just about swooping in with the right answers. It's about showing up consistently and wholeheartedly, like you actually mean it and you want to be there. And that mindset is the one that stayed with me and motivated me to pursue the field. I thought if I could give and receive this much fulfillment just by volunteering in these medical settings, why not take the next step and try to become a healthcare provider myself? So I took the next step and became certified as an emergency medical technician. Working on an ambulance means entering people's lives in a time of confusion, chaos, and crisis. So you're the one responsible for being the steady, calm presence. As the first line of response, you're not necessarily there to find solutions to all of the problems, but you are there to do everything you can to help them in the moment. And what you bring, even your tone of voice, can make all the difference. And when those patients convey their trust in you, those are the moments that stay with you forever. These experiences, from the flag I made about the brain, to the hospital floor, to the back of the ambulance, are all what solidified my path. I didn't choose a BSMD program to take a shortcut or rush the journey. I chose it because I wanted to fully and intentionally commit myself to a life in medicine. I've known from a young age that medicine was my path, but that isn't true for everyone, and that's completely fine. If you guys are thinking about medicine and you're unsure, overwhelmed, or maybe feel like you're not qualified, I want you to know your journey can start now. You might find that medicine resonates with you in ways you don't even realize. For example, I found similarities between medicine and one of my lifelong passions, a South Indian classical dance form called Kuchipudi. Kuchipudi is about presence on the stage and precision. Every eyebrow raise, every finger in your hand gesture, every slight tap of the foot matters. It's something you can't fake, and you have to be fully present in it. And in that way, medicine and dance are surprisingly similar. Both require discipline, both demand focus, and both rely on human connection, whether it's between performer and audience or doctor and patient. So even if medicine feels new, it can still connect back to parts of yourself that were there all along. Your curiosity, your empathy, your drive to make a difference. Whether it's through science, art, music, caregiving, or just being someone who listens well, the qualities that make someone a great doctor come way before you put that white coat on. And I don't mean to downplay the depth of knowledge you need or the range of experiences you'll encounter on the path. Medicine absolutely demands rigor, resilience, and years of hard work. But what I am saying is, you don't need to have it all figured out today. You don't need a 10-step plan, or you don't need a perfect GPA to get started. What matters most is that feeling in your chest saying that you could belong in the medical field. And if you ever feel that spark, I say follow it. You can start like I did, by volunteering in places like hospitals, memory care facilities, or anywhere that you find fulfillment. It could even be a daycare. Find those places that mean a lot to you and apply yourself there. See if that gives you the same fulfillment you want it to. And if that continues, you know that you're meant to be in the medical field and you can continue along that path. Whether you're sculpting a clay brain, shadowing a doctor, studying for a biology test, or simply just sitting with someone who needs company, every small step counts. And the fact that you guys are here today already tells me that you care, and that's the most important part. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Sonika and MedTeens, for inviting me to speak here. It was an amazing opportunity. I can't wait to join the panel and hear all of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lavanya. It's so nice to hear your other life, like your alter ego, besides the one that I know at dance. I saw the video on the slide. It was the funniest thing I saw this morning. So I'm upset that it didn't get to play, so I'm sorry about that. But otherwise, thank you so much for giving us such a wonderful guest speaker session. And join me in the middle of the stage for your plaque. Thank you, guys. So now we will have an exactly 10-minute break, and after that we'll start our panel, a super exciting panel. We're waiting on our speaker, one of our speakers, our closing next speakers, and she's not here yet, but we will have a 10-minute panel. Perfect, thank you so much. Would you please join the speakers table right here? Thank you. But yeah, 10 minutes break, and we'll have lunch shortly after the panel. Thank you.
Test, test. Test, test. Test, check, check. Check.
Stuff. Okay, all of you take 2 steps this side. Come on, perfect, yes. Okay, excellent. One more step, just a tiny bit. Yeah, perfect. And squeeze in, yeah, squeeze in, yes. Perfect. Excellent. Everyone's hair is good. Everyone's smile is good. Thank you. This one's fine, okay? This chair is coming in between, so we don't need that showing up in all your pictures. Okay. Okay, big smiles. Check, check, check. Beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous. Now let's get full picture. 1, 2, 3, go. One more. 1, 2, 3, go. Last one. 1, 2, 3, go. Perfect. Excellent, thank you. Sonika, if you want one picture of each panelist, I can take also if you want. Okay, let's do that. Why not? Because they are here anyway, so. Yep.
I know.
Okay, who's going to the next one? Yes. Beautiful. One more. Okay, next. Okay, big smiles. Excellent. Cue. Last one. Perfect. Next. Okay, 1, 2, 3. One more. Last one. Okay, next. Okay, eyes here. Excellent. 1, 2, 3, go. One more. And last one. Perfect. Thank you.
I think 30 years ago was 1970. And it was like, no, girl, it's 90. I'm like, and it's so crazy. I remember in the 90s, you know, like in 2020, whatever. And here we are, and I'm just like, I'm not going to say nothing about 2060, nothing. I'm not going to say anything about this is too real.
Hello. Okay. Okay, guys, welcome back from our break. Thank you for still sticking with us. I know it's been a little bit of a morning, but yeah. Now we will move on to our super exciting panel discussion. Our topic for today is what they don't tell you about a career in healthcare. So this isn't your typical do an internship or shadow a doctor kind of advice. Our goal here is to get honest and talk about the brochures, like what they don't say, and what people don't warn you about, and what's been learned the hard way. After this discussion, we will have a 10 to 12 minute audience Q&A. You can submit questions by scanning the QR code on the slide above, throughout the panel discussion, or simply just raise your hand only during the designated Q&A section. We've got an incredible mix of speakers here. Some of them are already in the thick of it as doctors. Others are medical students who've been on the grind and are building their way forward. And they're each bringing their own lens to this by answering two guiding questions we've prepared for them today. Super excited for this conversation. And now let's welcome our panelists. Please get on step onto the stage. We have first one to the right, Dr. Shilpa Gopinath. Thank you for joining us today.
To the bottom. So yeah, the on-off at the bottom once you finish speaking, you switch it off, so there's no difference. Thank you for having me here.
Of course, Mr. Rithvik Gundlapalli, Miss Lavanya Meduri, Dr. Erkeda DeRouen, Dr. Zsanai Epps. So let's get into it. Thank you for waiting. So Dr. Shilpa Gopinath, let's start with you. What's something that you had to unlearn once you actually started working or training in healthcare?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I think there are so many answers to this question. One of the first things I want to start with is I think I remember back as a medical student, especially in first or second year, I remember thinking that all the cases I see or all the patients I meet, the cases are going to be very typical of what was in the textbook. And I realized that this wasn't true at all. I mean, there is just, so I think it's very important to use guidelines, not as rigid rules, but just as a norm. Because there's just so much more about patient care. It's also about a patient's personal beliefs, their environment. Just the whole thing has to be taken into perspective. That is one of the most important things I think I had to kind of unlearn. And the other thing I want to really make a point is that in healthcare, it's very important to look at it as a very, it's a multidisciplinary team always working. So it's so important to sort of respect your colleagues. Everyone involved, the technicians, the nurses, every single person is very important, and it's very important to recognize that as a physician. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your honest answer. Sorry about that. On to the next one. What are some misconceptions in your field of work that you think aren't talked about enough?
I think one of the things I can think about is there's this perception that doctors have a lot of, they have endless resilience and they're really strong, especially mentally. That's not always the case. There is something called physician burnout, which is rarely talked about, especially for medical students and residents, even basically anyone working in healthcare. This is rarely talked about because, there's a saying where they say that doctors make the worst patients, so they probably try to ignore it in themselves and their peers. And I think that it's very important to actually, give importance to this. And also, I think mental health, especially among healthcare providers, is something which has to be given a lot of importance and talked about more.
I deeply resonate with your answer because I think mental health is something that's very invisible. No one really sees it, and it's really talked about. So thank you for your answer. Moving on to Dr. Erkeda DeRouen. What is one belief or mindset that you had going into this field that completely shifted along the way?
I think that's a great question, especially during this time where, let's just face it, a lot of us that choose to go into medicine are kind of like type A people, where you're like, I have to do this by this time, or I have to do this, and kind of like making life a checklist. And it's okay to live outside of the box. I used to believe that there was only one way to be like a real doctor or whatever they call it. And in the beginning, I thought for me that meant you go through medical school, you go through residency, you were taught by your attendees and your residents, so that's what you do next. You go into academics because that's what I saw what was modeled, that's what I was taught about because the people who were teaching me, that's all that they saw. Then I discovered health tech, and at first people told me this isn't real medicine and that I should always keep one foot kind of in the brick and mortar in-person care way. And then the pandemic hit, which was of course very unexpected. And suddenly everyone was using digital health, so I felt myself kind of ahead of the curve. And now as I'm drifting a little further away from traditional clinical medicine, as working as a healthcare consultant, I am still able to help serve patients and improve population level health and help with systems and improving outcomes, but just in a different way. So being able to honor those clinical roots, but doing the things that you're interested in. Is always okay to reconsider or reinvent yourself or think of another path, and you don't have to feel bad about that.
Thank you for your answer. If we looked at your life outside of work or school, what would surprise us about how you stay grounded?
I think people make time for what they want to make time for, and that's in all realms of life. So a lot of times people will think about life in terms of work-life balance, and I think over time I've adopted more of a work-life rhythm. So as someone who is kind of entrepreneurial and doing different things, sometimes I work late, sometimes I work on the weekends, but other times I'm able to take time and reflect and take a random Thursday off and fly to Chicago and go shopping or something with some friends, or go to New York or see a play like I did like a couple of nights ago. So I think it's more about incorporating the things that you love into your life. Family and friends will always be there outside of your patients. Even though you love your patients, you have to prioritize what's important to you first, and making sure that you don't make being a doctor, a physician, a nurse, whatever you end up going into, your entire identity. I think a lot of people kind of use being a physician as their personality, and it's a part or a component of who you are, but not who you are. So staying true to yourself, as well as maintaining hobbies and things that you like, is very important.
Thank you so much for that. I really loved how you explained that your career shouldn't define who you are, but instead make up part of your life. Thank you for your answer. Moving on to Dr. Zsanai Epps. Can you talk about a moment when you felt like you didn't belong, and how did you handle it?
So there was never a moment where I didn't feel like I didn't belong. There were moments where I encountered situations in which my presence and my lived experience wasn't valued. And there's many instances of this, and this is why I do the work that I do. But a prime example was when I was working as a research coordinator for an organization that was focused on supporting people who were living with asthma and allergies. And there was a time where I was pulled in to provide some feedback on the curriculum. They had adapted the curriculum for childhood asthma management, and then they needed one that was focused on asthma self-management for adults in communities of color. Now here I am, this Black girl, grew up low income, had to manage my asthma. My mom smoked cigarettes, so I knew how to manage my asthma, dealing with the environment in which I grew up in. And I had an undergraduate degree. I was the first one in my family to graduate undergrad. And at that time, when they were talking about adapting this curriculum, they wanted to pilot this curriculum in a community that was an online community that was full of white soccer moms. Now, how can you pilot test a curriculum that's supposed to be for communities of color to manage their asthma, and you want to pilot test on a community that doesn't even look like them? I was immediately floored. And so I talked to, the folks that were working on the team, and I said, well, I'd like to be a part of shaping the curriculum as someone with lived experience. And I was told by this woman, well, you have a college degree. Again, my lived experience wasn't valued in that moment, and that's when I knew that I could not work there any longer, for the simple fact that it's not about not feeling like you belong, it's about being in those spaces where your experience is not valued, and because they want to say we did this one thing and check a box, they're really not being intentional about the people that are going to be on the receiving end of whatever that product or that service is. And so I use that experience and other experiences to do the work that I do today, which is to always advocate and to ensure that every Black, brown, whoever person feels valued and that their lived experience matters no matter where they are and what the circumstance may be, and to always uplift who you are.
Thank you for that powerful answer. That's the definition of not letting a past experience define you and learning from it. So thank you so much. Moving on to your next question. What's something about your field that you never say out loud but wish more people understood?
Okay, it's two things. One, public health, you are not going to be rolling in the big bucks immediately. You just won't. I'm so sorry. The field it's so interesting, right? Because a lot of people that have come into the public health field have not been public health trained. So when I say public health trained, that means getting an undergraduate degree in public health, getting a master's in public health, then going on to get a doctorate in public health. You have people that kind of fall into the public health sphere, but they don't have the training. And so sometimes someone could come in with a business degree, then they're the project manager, they're making more money, then you come out as an undergraduate student, you're trying to figure out, well, why am I starting, my starting salary is $75,000 and it's only $50,000. So there's not a lot of money in there, but as you move up in life, there is some money to it. So that's the one thing. You're just not going to come in public health making the big bucks that, once you get into the medical field, you can. And the other thing is, there's such this deep emotional toll that comes with true public health work. And I say that it's a deep emotional toll because coming from a community in which you already know is disproportionately impacted from those social things, those systems, it's hard to see. And to be of one of few folks that are really truly committed to doing the work, you don't always see the change immediately. And so even as somebody, I'm the only person in my family with a doctorate degree. So my family thinks I'm the medical doctor of the family. I'm like, do y'all know the difference between public health and medical? But the toll is I have the weight of not only doing this work at a national level, but having to do it in my own personal life. So there's no days off for me, right? I have to think about why I have to watch my nephew for my brother and his girlfriend because they need to work, right? And why they can't, afford sufficient child care. I have to think about why my mother died prematurely at the age of 44 from a preventable chronic condition. And so seeing it and living it is such an emotional toll because you have to keep going. I've lost people from the maternal mortality crisis. I know a friend who almost died while giving birth. So I'm seeing it in my life and then having to figure out the solutions and systems that are not equipped to take care of Black and brown communities. So it's such an emotional toll. I can get up here and it seems great of all the achievements that I have, but still on the day-to-day, there are people dying. There are people who don't have the medications that they need. There is political polarization in which people have become desensitized to what is going on in this world. And it's so, so overwhelming. But I gotta get up, I gotta get this money, I gotta do for the community, and I have to do what I need to do. But it is such an unbearable emotional toll in this work.
Thank you for your answer, Dr. Epps. I think it's so inspiring to see firsthand how much emotional aspects in our life can influence us in our career and drive us to be better for everyone and for ourselves. Thank you. Now we'll turn to Mr. Rithvik Gundlapalli. Has there ever been a moment that made you question whether healthcare is even doing what it should? What did you do with that feeling?
So something that people don't know about the medical field overall is how overworked its workers are. From, as we talked about before, from medical students, residents, physicians, and all of the other staff, the nursing staff, the respiratory therapy staff in the hospital. So I always say that I know that everyone here who's interested in potentially pursuing a medical career will at some point shadow and see what it's like to be in a hospital, but I think that everyone should go ask a friend to be in a hospital for a couple hours to see what it's really like. But because of the burden of healthcare on its workers, it's often hard to be intentional with care. And I see this a lot with being a medical student who's working underneath physicians and residents. Sometimes you have a patient and you just go by the book, or you take the plan that was made the day before for that patient and you just copy it forward and you say, this is what we're going to continue doing for that patient. But you don't think about what that patient's life has entailed for them to be in that position and how that can actually change their care. Unfortunately, right now in healthcare, there are so many calculators that we use that are actually very race-based still, which is a huge problem. For example, calculating kidney function, calculating lung function, deciding whether a mother should receive a vaginal birth after trying a C-section in the past. All of these calculators, surprisingly, use the color of your skin to decide whether or not you might be valuable, applicable to get a different kind of treatment. And I actually had a patient a couple of weeks ago who I had to, as a medical student, put myself in the position where I was arguing with the resident about their like creatinine level, putting the 1 point under the threshold for getting a kidney transplant versus not, which I feel like should not be the situation, but the resident is so overworked that they just did the calculator, moved on, they have 40 other patients to see, like, oh, they're not a candidate right now. So I think that as we all move forward in the field, just understanding what we're doing, and then even more importantly, why we're doing that, what decisions we're making, and why we're making those specific decisions for each of our patients is really important. And that's something that you guys, as you go forward in your field, and regardless of whether you end up going into medicine or not, is something that you can keep in mind with the decisions that you make every single day.
Thank you for opening my eye to different issues that aren't even spoken about, and how the patient's perspective and their lens can be so important in the field of healthcare, and that mentors and people that speak at conferences don't usually talk about. We talk about how do we get to be a physician, what doctor should we shadow, what internships should we do, but we don't talk about the nitty-gritty details of healthcare, so thank you for bringing that to light. Moving on to our next question, what is a moment that you'll never forget with a patient or mentor, and why does it still stick with you today?
So I just finished my time in the neurology psychiatry part of my medical school, and I was actually working in the cognitive neurology clinic a couple weeks ago. And so I spent all week taking care of patients with Alzheimer's disease, different levels of dementia. And honestly, halfway through the week, I was really tired. I was just dejected because I was seeing so many 70, 80-year-olds who had the mental capacity of literally a 4-year-old. You had caretakers, they were wearing diapers, they don't remember who they are, what they're doing every day. And I could just feel the toll that it was taking on me personally to walk into each room and then have to tell them, like, okay, this is how it's gonna go, there's nothing we can do after this. Here are some meds that you can help, or like, here's some social work stuff. But I was working one day with a cognitive neurologist who, we walked into a room, and the caretaker of that person, the patient's husband, was so happy, like elated to see them. And I'd never actually seen a situation like that. Usually it's the caretaker comes in, they're all really upset, they're exhausted for having to take care of someone in their care like that. And obviously it's an extremely upsetting experience for them, right? Imagine living life for 50, 60 years with someone, and all of a sudden them forgetting who they are and who you are. So I was exhausted, but this person responded with, "You are the best doctor we've ever had, we're having such a great time right now," and their wife had no idea what was going on. But I talked to the doctor afterward, and I was like, what do you think changed that person's experience? Why do you think even though this disease was so exhausting and toll taking on them, what do you think changed the way their brain was working in that situation? And she said, our job as doctors is two things. One, we always talk about how like doctors manage disease, things like that. But something that was mentioned earlier, the word doctor means teacher. It comes from the Latin and Greek word for teacher, and we don't actually talk about how the purpose of being a doctor is not to tell a patient what they should do. It's to teach them how they can then take charge of their own life. And the second thing is disease is any process that causes dis-ease in your life. If you don't feel at ease, whether you have an itch on the bottom of your foot or you're feeling too hot in bed, like that's dis-ease. And we just say, oh, disease is life-threatening, but if you can take a disease process and remove that patient's dis from the ease and make them feel okay with living the way they are, you've still done your job, even if you can't change the course of that process, right? So someone with Alzheimer's is not going to get better. It's just, unfortunately, we don't have a cure right now. We have a few meds that can slow the process down. But if you as a doctor can help them feel okay with it and help them live their life, revert it to a time when they could actually feel okay with it, then you've still done your job. And that is an experience that I've taken away.
Thank you for sharing that, Rithvik. I definitely see how it can be a big emotional toll on a doctor who feels almost helpless at a situation. So thank you for sharing that with us today. So now moving on to Ms. Lavanya Meduri. What part of your personality has helped you the most, and what part has gotten in the way?
So I'd say the part that has helped me the most is definitely my consistency. I feel like it's a very big part of being a physician, or honestly, forget physician, is being a good friend, being a good person, is being consistent and being reliable. whether it's for a volunteering shift, an EMT shift, a late night study session, or just when a friend needs, a shoulder to lean on. Being there, being reliable is something that I'm really proud of myself for having. And sure, it doesn't, you can just show up somewhere, but what matters more than that is that you're fully meaning what you do. If you show up there and you're kind of spaced out, you're not understanding what's going on around you, you're just there to be there, that doesn't mean anything. If you're there and you put your all into every single thing that you're doing, that's what matters, and that's what shows up as your consistency and your reliability. And the part that's gotten in my way the most is definitely my tendency to overthink. And when I was younger, that came with an immense fear of failure, to the point where, I'd be scared to raise my hand in class because I was scared that I would get the answer wrong. If the teacher asked a question and I was 99% sure I had the right answer, I still wouldn't raise my hand because of that 1% chance that I would get it wrong. Even at the grocery store, I'd be scared to ask someone for help finding an item because I was like, oh my God, what if the item's not there? What if I embarrass myself? What if they laugh at me? Well, honestly, what I realized is the worst thing someone can say is no. And if they say no, you can either, say something back to them, or you can just walk away knowing that at least you tried. Putting in that effort is really what matters. So, and this is an issue I've noticed with a lot of my friends, my peers, is that sometimes they hesitate to take charge and stand up for themselves, ask questions, answer questions. But honestly, if you kind of just take charge, what I do is I just try to hush that voice in my head, say the worst thing that could possibly happen, and kind of just move forward with it and accept what's gonna happen. Like with the disease, honestly, just accepting what's gonna happen and moving on with it is the most important part.
Thank you, and I see an example right here. As a fellow overthinker, I definitely relate to Lavanya a lot, so I think that you're an example of what all these admirable qualities that you talk about is. Thank you. Moving on to our next question. If this entire room forgot everything you said today except for one thing, what would you hope that they remembered?
Honestly, I feel like a broken record saying this, but to start a career in the medical field or to do really anything at all, you don't need to be perfect. You just have to be fully present, fully passionate, and put your all into whatever you do. And if you do that, I believe if you truly put your passion, if you have a passion, you put your everything into it, you will find a way to make things happen, no matter what. You will find a way to have things align in your favor. You will find a way, even if it's something impossible, you'll find a way to work around it and get what you need. So I want you guys to just know that fully immerse yourself in something if you're passionate about it. And if you think you can't fully immerse yourself into something, then maybe that's not your passion. Maybe you need to find another path, and that's okay. But if you find something that you truly enjoy, fully put yourself into that. Make sure you understand everything about it, put in the effort, and you will be rewarded.
Thank you so much for those words. I think that was lovely. Now we'll move on to our Q&A section. And thank you for all the speakers for speaking today. I thought your answers were absolutely inspiring and lovely, and I think they opened my eyes and maybe a lot of these other people in the audience listening here today, looking to be in the medical field. So thank you so much for speaking. Now, that wraps up our panel questions. Now we'll move into our short Q&A session, as we said before. Can you please show the slide? You are more than welcome to submit more questions by scanning this QR code right here. And I will now open up our Google form, and I'll call out some of the questions that you guys have already. Okay. We have a question for Rithvik Gundlapalli. As a third-year medical student, what advice would you offer for preparing for the MCAT? Many students find the idea of the exam intimidating, so your insights could be very helpful.
Every time someone asks me how to prepare for the MCAT, I think of when you start talking about the MCAT, I think all of you guys are going to have this. When you open YouTube next, there's an advertisement from Kaplan, and there's some guy who goes, the MCAT is hard and the MCAT is important. And it's like a trauma for me. Every time I open YouTube, I feel like I see that guy. So the MCAT is one of the most difficult exams in the medical career, and there are several, but it's the start of a long journey of dedication. And someone told me something about step 2, which is an exam I'm going to take soon, that I think actually applied to the MCAT. I wish someone told me about that too. Your ability to do well on the MCAT is not related to how smart you are. The reason I think people care about these 7, 8, 9-hour exams is because it is a marker of your ability to sit down and persevere on something. If you can't sit down for 6 weeks and study for 3-4 hours a day to get to a goal, like you set a goal for yourself and then you take an exam to get there, then you probably will not be able to do that for the rest of your life. You're gonna burn out and you're gonna get exhausted. So it's a test of your perseverance. And to do that, you need to, 1, decide what's important to you. 2, you need to decide what parts of that journey are gonna be most difficult. For me, it was less learning the content and more actually sitting down to do the exam. I'm not the best test taker, which is not a great thing for someone in medicine, and I have to overcome that every single week when I take exams. It's not even the anxiety around it, it's that I confuse myself looking at these question choices. If someone asked me the same question outside of the exam, I would know enough to write a full, short answer response about it. But when I'm picking between multiple choices, I confuse myself. So I knew that was my weakness, and so you have to put your foot down and say, I'm gonna find a way to prepare so that I can make my weakness no longer that. Give yourself enough time, weeks in advance, to decide when you're going to take it and what you need to do to study and practice in time. And if you don't get it the first time, that's okay. And if you don't get it the second time, that's okay. Just find a goal and then keep working until you hit it. And that's all I'll say, because the MCAT is just the first exam of many that you'll take.
Is it okay if I add something to that? I agree 100% with everything that Rithvik said. Just as someone, I had a podcast geared towards pre-meds that interviewed a lot of deans and students and residents, and it's called A Prospective Doctor. It's not running anymore, but it's about 1.5 years worth of content if you want to go back and listen. It's not a plug for me. But I would say everything that Rithvik said was absolutely correct. A lot of people aren't strong with taking tests, but one advantage that you guys have is that you're here right now, and medicine will be full of tests for the rest of your career. So MCAT is the first one. There will be step 1, step 2, step 3, and then your boards. So you have to get comfortable with test taking. I was terrible at it, and I didn't really fully acknowledge that until I was good into step 1. But there are ways that you can study test taking strategies, because there's a method to it. There are ways to go and answer multiple test questions appropriately. And there are question banks. There are a whole bunch of them out there. Find the one that's right for you. But I would say prioritize taking questions over the content, so that you'll know how to answer the questions. You're going to know the information, but it's the way that you approach, the way that you read and pull out keywords and all of those things in a timed manner that is so important. So if you're not doing well on a practice MCAT when it gets to that time, focus on the questions.
Thank you. Hello.
Sure.
Hello. Okay. Thank you so much for your responses. We do have loads and loads of questions, so I will just go with stuff we didn't cover yet and interesting questions. You guys asked really nice questions. So if anyone needed to raise their hand, you guys may do so as well. We can call on you. I will go with this one right here. How did you manage finances that come with being someone on the pre-med track? Was it through scholarships, loans, serving an underserved community, or joining the military? Any of the speakers can jump in and answer this question.
You're closer.
I can start. So I'm very fortunate to have parents who are helping me along the track in terms of finances right now. But through undergrad, I think people really underestimate how available scholarships are. I think, so during the 4 years of my undergrad, people really get scared of writing essays for scholarships for some reason. Excuse me. So it was really easy for me to just put my foot down and write a couple of scholarship essays and then realize that no one else had actually applied. So I got a lot of money from UVA just because I feel like a lot of people didn't apply to scholarships. So go forth and find opportunities to write little essays, interviews, because there's so many scholarships out there in undergrad. I was also in RA, which I thought was really fun during my undergrad, which saved me money on housing and food and things like that. So there are plenty of opportunities in college, high school and college, to apply for programs where they're giving you money. And then once you get to medical school, you have some money that's saved up, which is very helpful.
Thank you. How is AI and agentic AI changing the field of healthcare, both for a healthcare provider and for a patient? Is anyone knowledgeable about that?
So I'll talk about AI because we're seeing a lot of it in public health, and we are tackling it from a lens of bias, the implicit bias that exists in AI technology. I think one of the biggest things that we found with a lot of the different type of screening tools and things like that, Black people, people of color tend to be screened differently. I think that's something important when we think about these, like the facial recognition, or when you have to put your fingerprint on something. It just doesn't read well, so we already think about the implicit bias there. I think the other thing too, which has been interesting and what we've seen, is the rate in which appointments are booked for physicians of color. They tend to be overbooked. And the idea is that typically when they're serving communities of color, they may not keep their appointments, etc. So they double book through their systems for those physicians. And something else around AI, which I think is important. Yes, we need the technology. As technology evolves, we need it. However, we must always interrogate why the technology was created and who the technology was created with. I think it's so important when we think about technology and those things that are created, who's all at the table? If the people that are going to be on the receiving end of whatever that technology is not a part of the process, they have not been involved from the conception all the way through the piloting and the evaluation of it, then it's not really going to address those implicit biases that exist when we think about AI. And so at the Black Women's Health Imperative, we're looking at it from that lens. I think a lot of people can be scared of technology. I know for me and my family, they're still like, I ain't putting my business on there. I'm not uploading this. I'm not doing facial recognition, because of how sometimes that data can be used to disproportionately impact communities of color.
That was my question. Can I expand on that a little bit?
Of course. Can we bring him a mic, please?
Yeah, thanks. That was a wonderful answer, by the way. But I wanted to ask more from this perspective, that now being a patient, when my doctor talked to me about either it's medication or the prognosis or whatever he or she is offering to me, I have so much information available. I just, when I just put that detail that I got from my service provider, I get the response, and based on the knowledge from the whole globe. And then, I am like kind of now, I feel, in one side, I feel very empowered. On the other side, when, if my service provider is not really, it's giving me something which is not validated through that, huge knowledge available, I kind of just in a limbo that, how should I respond to that? So that's from a patient perspective, if you want to address that. And then I also wanted to understand, my son being sitting here with me, like, tomorrow if he's going to be the Medcon student, do you guys foresee that what you will be learning and how you are approaching the education today would change, like in terms of, I don't know, if I can kind of relate to my profession, I don't need to have now all that information remembered and all that, because of this technology and this whole, the wealth of knowledge available to me. Maybe I need to be more paying attention to processes and how to have, improve on that human side of the healthcare service provider. So if you want to address the question.
I'd
from
love
this
to
side.
address that because that's my entire career. So I have a digital health risk management firm, and those are the things that I love talking about, especially what you talked about. We have to make sure that people who are training the data are training it on diverse data and diverse perspectives, because that's what it's learning from and that's what it's going to put back out. We have to empower ourselves. What's with me and Mike today? But we have to empower ourselves to not shy away from it. I know there are a lot of physicians who are like, I don't want to use that crap, and it's going to take our job. Like, there's no replacement for the human touch, the human interaction, emotions. Technology should be used as an adjunct to patient care, and it can help improve us. So what you were saying about, well, we have to learn more things, it gives us more information to learn from. It's just like the second, I guess, digital transformation level where doctors in the 70s didn't have the internet. So they had to carry around books and go and look up stuff in the back room in their offices and memorize a lot of stuff. When I was in medical school, we had the internet. We had different things like UpToDate and Dynamed and things that you can go and look at and give you more information. Now it's evolving, where we have things like open evidence, which is like ChatGPT for doctors, where it can pull out specific journal articles and search the entire internet to give you a plethora of information, even on specific populations. So for me, I've been working with a lot of digital health organizations, and we're trying to expand where we're working to optimize workflows, because there is a lot of things that are guideline based, like we were mentioning before, where patients don't read the book. Like, your body doesn't read the book, but it can give you a place to start and recognize patterns and trends. So it's really important for people to start learning about what is going on, as well as figuring out how you can put yourself ahead of the curve. With me doing a lot of stuff with training digital health organizations and working to optimize those workflows, it gave me the opportunity to work with ChatGPT on their health bench as one of like the only 200 doctors in the world. So learning new skill sets can help set you ahead of others, as well as helping to support patients. So I think that it's exciting that this is happening, but we also have to push back when you were saying, like, you may know a lot more than sometimes people are kind of in their little niches where they don't, if they haven't seen it in a while, they haven't been trained on it, they may not know. I just had a meeting with an organization that I'm working with, and they were very shocked about a specific test. I won't get into it at this level because it was more in sexual health, but they were shocked that I was recommending that we do those tests. So it's more about education. So if you're approaching your provider and they're not really knowledgeable, just show them and open up the paper together and learn and talk about what your concerns are, because that can help see where to start from and where you can maybe get more tests, or they can go and read a little more about it or talk with some colleagues about it, because we talk amongst ourselves. So maybe talk with someone else. And then the other part I wanted to talk about earlier from the other question about finances. You were very blessed to have your family help. Mine didn't. I left in $400,000 in debt. And one of the ways that a lot of people who were in my situation talked about, like, it's an investment in yourself. You'll be able to pay it back. There are opportunities in different ways where people mention, like, the military. I've had a lot of friends who have done that. I did the National Health Service Corps, and it didn't honestly pay everything off, but it's a way in which you can go and look for different opportunities, as well as scholarships. I got some like during pre-med and some during med school. Like, a lot of people don't apply to these things, and if you're doing programs and community outreach and things that are making you a better person and a better doctor, that can help you when you're applying for those scholarships.
I just want to add a little bit about AI from the student perspective as well. So, first of all, as a medical student, I acknowledge that I probably know less than 5% of what I'm going to know by the time I finish my career. You're just always learning, but I do know that ChatGPT is almost always wrong right now. So I'm just going to put that out there. It has so much information and the ability to grab, like, scope the entire internet, which is an amazing power. But one thing that doctors have is experience, and not only experience, but context. So open evidence is a new tool that I've been using as well. But the benefit of open evidence is that it gives you sites and it gives you references and it tells you what journals, accredited journals that it pulls research from to decide what conclusions that it wants to give you. But ChatGPT doesn't do that necessarily. And so right now, it's empowering, and you should definitely take that information and go to your doctor if you say, like, I have this question, I gave it to ChatGPT, it said this, this, and this, and it doesn't say what you said. Can you explain why you're doing what? And they might be wrong. Physicians are wrong, and that's okay. You just have to take that information and give it to them, and then hopefully you can have a positive conversation from that. And then from the student perspective, it's very nice to have information at your fingertips, but a lot of times you don't have your device open all the time. So I'm not sure how this is going to change in the future, and maybe we'll have a different conversation in 10 years. But right now, at least, I still need to have the information in my head, and I still study as if I won't have that information, because if a patient is crashing next to me, I need to know the dosages for the paralytic so I can intubate them. And it can't be like, let me open evidence really quick to find out for you, right? So there's still a part of being a doctor that is empowering to know the information, but AI is incredibly powerful. Just don't take your healthcare from it. Take it from the people who worked for 30, 40 years and are giving you advice.
Thank you.
Thank you for both of your takes on AI and ChatGPT. You know, my dad is an avid ChatGPT user, so that was like music to my ears, because I try to get him that, yeah. But besides that, thank you for your answers. I'm getting a lot of extracurricular questions, but before we address that, I did get a question that stood out to me the most. Let me find it. Sorry. How did the path of BSMD differ from a traditional med school path?
So the main difference between the BSMD and the traditional path is obviously the guaranteed spot at medical school. It varies based off of the program you join in, but for my program, there is a guaranteed spot. Some parts of the program is, although you do have to take the MCAT, there is no hard minimum score required to maintain your spot in the program. There is a GPA requirement, but it's 3.5, not, I think that's like a B or B plus, and it's not too hard to maintain. So yeah, those are the main differences, I'd say, but more than just the rules and guidelines of the program, I kind of wanted to go into why I chose the BSMD program. One reason is you get to be with a cohort of other people who have had the same passions as you and have that kind of same drive as you to become a doctor. And obviously you can find that in traditional pre-med as well, but these are people that you know for a fact will be going through the exact same steps of medical school as you, will be taking the same exams as you at the same time as you. And I think that's what stood out to me the most about a BSMD program. Obviously, like I said, not all BSMD programs are made the same, so my advice is to not just apply to every single BSMD program because it's a guaranteed spot. Some of them might be guaranteed interviews, not guaranteed spots, but most importantly, find a program that suits you and your preferences. I really wanted to go to a smaller school with more focused class sizes and with, better mentoring rather than a free-for-all path. That's what I wanted. If you want something different, then obviously go for whatever you want, and that's the program that I found. Those are more of the programs that I applied to. So I'd say if a BSMD, I know it sounds appealing, but it's not the right path for everybody. Some of you guys might want to take the traditional pre-med route. Just look at your preferences, where you see yourself in the future, the type of doctor you want to become, the type of college experience you want to have. Because yes, you're going to be a doctor in the end, but the way that you get there does look at what you want in your college experience and your medical school experience and apply based off of that.
I feel like I keep speaking, but I also went through a program similar, and it was different. So I just wanted to point that out. So I love that you said like every program is different and to find the one that fits you. So I did a program at Boston University, but it was a feeder program where I started college at Hampton University. And I did the summer after my sophomore and junior year, and then I spent the entire senior year taking like pre-med classes and medical school classes at BU. And then depending on your grades and things like that, you would be going into the medical school, and it was kind of like real world where like 15 strangers were picked to live in a brownstone. So you had that built-in community and friends and stuff like that. But they also had other feeder programs like the combined one where you started at BU, and we all were kind of together in those groups. So with ours, and I hate saying back in my day, but back in my day, I also didn't really need a score for the MCAT, but they changed that since then. So looking at the specific requirements to see what is something you want to do, as well as finding like what class size is important and stuff like that, because it could really determine your trajectory of if you want to stay at that school or apply to other ones.
Thank you for that. Now getting into the tons of extracurricular questions that I've gotten. A second. Okay, I'm just gonna go with one to sum up everyone here. What would you recommend as the best way to get started in the medical field? Specifically, what types of extracurricular activities would you suggest to help prepare for both the career in medicine and the college admissions process?
I can start. I talked about this a little bit in my speech, but genuinely follow your passion. For me, I was very interested in the brain. I was very interested in topics like dementia and Alzheimer's. So I decided I wanted to volunteer at a memory care facility that was inside an assisted living home. And that was my passion. That's why I wanted to pursue that. I wouldn't say just start volunteering at a hospital because you feel like you need hours, or start shadowing someone because you need hours for that too. Find something that you're genuinely interested in. If you see a clinic that you like, maybe go email the doctor there and ask them if you can shadow them. Do it out of interest, not just to check boxes on your application. Because I know it seems like people just look for hours, but that's not necessarily the case to admissions counselors. They can honestly tell a lot of the time if you're just building up your resume to have it on a piece of paper, or if you do it because you're genuinely interested in it and because you actually enjoy what you're doing. So my biggest advice, again, is to follow your passions. Make sure you genuinely want to do the field that you're going into and align your extracurriculars with those.
I will just add that you should just aim to accomplish something in what you want to do. So no one really cares about if you publish 15 papers in high school as like a 12-year-old. That it's just like not reasonable, and unfortunately that's just the culture that we've built over the past few years. From high school through undergrad, I knew what was important to me was mentorship and education most of all. So I did volunteer at hospitals, and I did a little bit of research here and there in undergrad for medical school. But what I really tried to accomplish was I TA'd multiple classes in undergrad, and those are my activities. I tutored, I taught Telugu, which is like an Indian language, my mother tongue, all through high school, and I did that for several hours a week. And I just showed in my application that I was passionate about one thing. And so when I went and I talked about being a medical school applicant in my interviews, and they were like, what are you passionate about? I was like, you can see like I'm passionate about education, and all I've done is education. I'm not doing like a little bit of research and shadowing and this and that to fit all the boxes. I don't care about doing all this stuff. I want to accomplish what I want to do. And so pick something that you're passionate about, just like Lavanya said, and then aim to make a difference. Don't just let it grow. You should also try to grow in it, but you should also try to provide and contribute back to the community that's giving you something. So if you want to work and volunteer at a memory clinic, do put your all in it so that when you leave, they feel like they missed you. You want other people to remember your impact in the organizations that you work with.
I'm just going to add, as someone with public health, I enjoy seeing MD and PH when I'm engaging with folks. And so I would encourage everyone thinking about medical school to also think about securing training or another degree in public health as well. I think combining them are so powerful, because when you get a medical degree, you're serving individuals. But public health is population, it's communities. And I think it's so important when we think about the social determinants of health, because someone will show up to you in your clinic space with high blood pressure, but it's so much more why they have high blood pressure. Somebody could have stressed them out, work could be stressing them out, they already took off to see you, then you 5 minutes late, they gotta hurry up and get back out. And so I think it's so important to pair medical school and medical training with public health. I think I've been able to support young people that are in medical school now with even training around social justice movements and understanding how that also supports medical careers. Because if you think about what's going on right now, like physicians are needed to talk about why science and evidence-based practices matter, considering all of what's going on in the polarization of policy. People are not thinking about that, right? So someone coming into your office to see you to get medication and all that, so much more going around socially, politically, environmentally, financially for that individual person. That public health helps with that. The other piece too is someone, in public health, but I've had the chance to work with clinicians to figure out what are pathway programs, referral processes to support someone seeing a physician and then being able to enroll in some type of community-based program that will support them in addressing the social determinants of health, so their cholesterol numbers go down, so that way they lose weight, right? So that way they no longer have prediabetes. So I think it's an intersection of industries and disciplines that is very important that we need moving forward, that is not just siloed, right? Like, how can we take all of these disciplines and bring them together to ensure that we have real, well-rounded professionals, right? Like, we all can be leaders in our designated field, but to be in a well-rounded professional, you need to ensure that you know a little bit about everything to be able to support, because once you get into once you're in front of someone, you want to be able to showcase that, and that you're not there to just say, oh, let me make sure your blood pressure's low and you got this medicine. It's more so around, I understand you live in a zip code that has food deserts. I understand that you can't eat healthy to bring down your, obesity. So here's what I recommend. Like, all of that's important. And it's embedded in EHR systems as well. I was able to work with some clinicians in which, they're talking and they're able to check those boxes off, and the referral processes is so important, from clinical systems to community-based programs.
Everything she said, and I'm gonna be real quick, but we were talking about finances, and a lot of those extra masters in public health or masters in business administration, the schools pay for it if you do an extra year.
We did get loads of questions asking about financial programs and stuff, so I think that covers it. One last question to wrap up our Q&A. We're going a little bit over time here, but I appreciate everyone's honest and raw feedback and insights and advice. Yeah. Sorry, just loaded one more time. Sorry about that. I think this question would help a lot of our high schoolers out there applying to colleges. What would you do differently if you were applying to colleges all over again?
Honestly, I kind of did this, I kind of didn't. What I said before about choosing colleges wisely, I just want to, kind of emphasize that a little bit more. Applying to more colleges isn't necessarily the best idea. I mean, I applied to a few colleges that even if I got accepted, I would never get into, and then that just wasted so much time of me writing all those supplemental essays. It wasted, my brain power. I was, so it's more important to look at colleges that you would go to and experiences you would enjoy, rather than just like spamming a lot of colleges and applying to them hoping that you'll get into one. Yes, you want a good education, but at the same time, you want an experience in the education that you'll actually enjoy. If you dread waking up every day and going to class, you're not really going to learn much, you're not going to retain much information. On the other hand, if you wake up every day and you're excited to go to class, you're excited to see your professors, you want to meet with the professors outside of class time, things like that actually matter. So my biggest advice is choose your colleges wisely. Don't just start applying to many. And another piece of advice is start writing essays early. I feel like everybody gives this advice, everybody gets this advice. I personally did not follow this advice. I know it is hard, but start at least brainstorming ideas. Look at essay topics. Write down experiences in your life that you think made an impact on you. write about your extracurriculars. And that's honestly the first step to writing a good essay. So I'd say keep all of that in mind, make a good college list, stay organized, and start early, honestly.
Anyone else?
There it is. I would say that college gives you an education for life. Yes, you're going there so that you can have the appropriate academics and all of those kinds of things, but you need to look at your college as a whole, and is it somewhere you want to be for 4 years? These are the people that you're going to maintain friendships with. These are the people who you're going to be studying for the MCAT with. So make sure it's somewhere that you want to be, somewhere that you can live with, somewhere that hopefully is offering you some money, but also somewhere where you're excited. Like I still love seeing my friends from college. Other things that I would say just in your journey as you're going through, when I was talking to one of my little cousins recently where we were talking about how I kind of looked at my med school. I knew that I wanted to go to a HBCU just from my culture, so I went to Hampton University, but when I looked at the different types of HBCUs that I wanted to look like, and this can go for any school, I looked and saw what I wanted to do. So I knew I wanted to be a doctor. And then I looked and I saw how many students went to medical school from that pre-med class, how many went the first try, what were their MCAT scores like, and I kind of worked my way back and then actually talk to your students. All schools look great on paper or on their website, so talk to the students, kind of get their email or their phone number or something outside of those gathering events and get the real information as to like, okay, how are the dorms? Like, everything's good on high school day when you go. They put out their best food, they put out the best music, they're having a good time, but actually have a conversation with students who are there to see what their experience is like.
I think I would just say, as someone who is a professor of undergraduate students, oh goodness, and reflecting on my experience when I was a high school student, just because of my background and the community in which I lived, it shaped the trajectory of my education. And so I'm not going to go into detail about all of what it was, but when I was in high school, I graduated top 10% of my graduating class. I wrote all these essays. I wrote an essay that got me a full ride to the University of Maryland College Park, right? Amazing. But there were social things. When you get a full ride, you still have to do the FAFSA, right? And my mom didn't understand what completing the FAFSA was. She didn't want people in her business. So I had to forfeit my scholarship because she was my parent that I lived with and her information was needed for it. So I say all that to say that's not everyone's experience, but I did write the essays, I did get the full ride. And let me just say this, the person who got it, I don't know, we streaming child, she majored in music. Nonetheless, it's okay. But I did that, right? But I knew I still wanted to go to school and have an education. And it became more so about where can I have the most impact where I am? So I ended up at Morgan State University with the support that I needed, which has been crucial to my trajectory in my career. Morgan State University is a historically Black college university, so it was not so much about where I was trying to be, right? Because it would have been great for me to say, oh, I graduated from the University of Maryland College Park. But that wasn't where I was supposed to be here to talk to you all today. It was at Morgan State. It was learning, the history of Morgan and what that history meant to Baltimore and to Maryland as a whole when we think about the movements of the 1960s. That's where I ended up. And also to be at a HBCU that was the first HBCU to have a doctorate in public health, and then the first to have an online doctorate. And so when you're in high school, you're thinking about, oh, I need to go somewhere that's, top 10 college or whatever. But, just really think about your current environment and where you are, and let the determination to be someone and to have an impact in your career be your driving factor. It doesn't matter where you end up, right? It's about what you do when you're there. And I think that's most important. So no matter where you end up, wherever you get accepted to, don't think that it's in the world if we don't get into those schools that you want to get into. Whatever school's offering you the best support, go there. and maximize your time, maximize the resources, the connections while you're there, because I believe in divine time, and it's a reason for everything. And so while you may have your whole life planned out, as many of us may do, sometimes that straight line, that linear line becomes squiggly, curves, circles, and some more, but you end up at the goal. And my goal was to be a doctor of some kind and to be able to support the communities in which I came from.
Thank you guys who answered that question for reminding us that education is an education and that we shouldn't let it define us, and that your personality and your driving factor is where you will achieve success. So thank you to all of our panelists for being so open and thoughtful, for all of our students here listening, and to our audience for the amazing questions. I thought it really added to the conference. Thank you so much. And that, you guys, brings us to the end of our Q&A. Can we get the... To close out today's event, we're excited to welcome back Dr. Shilpa Gopinath for our closing keynote session. Dr. Gopinath is a postdoctoral fellow in dermatology at Johns Hopkins Medicine, where she works at the intersection of clinical research and biomedical innovation. Her background spans transplant dermatology, translational research, and medical technology development. She's led multi-site clinical trials, published in high-impact journals, and built advocacy programs for international physician scientists. She also brings a creative lens to her work and life, with interests ranging from Carnatic music to yoga to interior design. Today, she'll share some final thoughts of what it really means to carve a path in healthcare with honesty, flexibility, and purpose. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Shilpa Gopinath. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sonika, for that really nice introduction, and thank you for the organizers for inviting me here today. It's truly a pleasure to be with all of you, and it's great to see that you're all here on a weekend, no less. So it shows that you're very invested in your future, and that matters. I'm Shilpa Gopinath. I'm a physician researcher, and I'm also currently a postdoc fellow at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. So I'm originally from India. I'm a medical doctor, and I have specialized in dermatology, public health, and translational research. But today, I'm not here to talk about my credentials. I'm here to talk more about my journey, or rather my perspective of the journey. And also something we all experience regardless of our background or title, and that is overcoming setbacks, facing uncertainty, and also the silent strength of persisting when no one is watching. So let me take you back to where it all began. I was born and raised in Bengaluru, and for those of you who don't know, it's in South India. It's a really beautiful city. It's known for its weather. It's also called the Silicon City because there are a lot of IT companies, and also of late, it's known for its really bad traffic. And so I wanted to make sure that there was a photo with its traffic. I don't know how much you can see. So I was actually born in a family that breathed medicine. So we had about 20 people who were doctors, including my parents. So I guess when I was born, they just decided that I'm going to become one. There was this general assumption. So it was never if I will become a doctor, it was more about when. And just like, because I see a lot of Indian families here, there was so much emphasis on academics right from childhood. So it's a lot of pressure. And I did do quite well. I was actually in the top 1% of my class right from kindergarten to high school. And medical school in India actually starts at 18 because we follow the British system, and also similar to the American or similar to how competitive it is over here. It can get very competitive there, and just for context, we have about, I think, 2.4 million candidates who actually take the exam to get into medical school, and you have to be in the top 1%, or to be more precise, like 0.7%. So despite this, I think I was really, I was sort of determined to sort of explore all my other interests because I really loved fashion, I loved art, and more importantly, I've always wanted to start my own company and be my own boss. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it is so important to, especially when you grow up in like a typical South Asian family, to not be pressured just because your family is full of doctors or your parents want you to be one. I think it's very important to ultimately do what you love. In my case, I think even though I had other interests, I think the most important thing was that I had a very natural ability for biology. It sort of came very natural to me. I really loved to dig deeper and to understand how the human body functions. And so ultimately, medicine sort of became a path which combined passion and purpose, and that's when I decided that I want to go into medical school. Now, medical school was challenging, but I think I did quite okay. So on the outside, it kind of looked like everything was going well, but what most people didn't see was that during that time and also in subsequent years, I went through a very, very difficult time in my personal life, and it wasn't really for months, it was actually for years. It was very traumatic for me, and at the end of it, I was told that I have major depression, and also I was told that I have ADHD, which was probably completely missed in childhood. And this was a very, very difficult time because one is that I was surrounded by especially family and community where sort of mental health is like a stigma. People don't really talk about it. And it was really hard because just getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. And I think that was the time when I was taking the USMLE exams. And I think, as Rithvik said, it's not just about intelligence. The exam is more about endurance. It's more about focus. And it became really, really hard. And then I really started to question my future in medicine, sort of question my place in the world. And the reason I'm talking about this today is that it's very important to know that even if you think that you're surrounded by really loving family and friends, or if you think you're all alone, at the end of the day, it's very important to know that no one saves you but yourself. So for me, it took me a really long time to realize this, but once I did, that low point became a turning point. So there was no rescue squad, no grand intervention, no lightning bulb moment. What did show up was something quieter, like a voice inside me which said that not today. You don't have to take a huge leap, but you do have to just take small steps. So small steps builds momentum. I think what really helped me during difficult time period, and it's for everyone, is to develop some important qualities which will definitely take you forward in life. And out of all this, I would say maybe self-belief and self-love is probably the most important thing. So what is self-belief? It's holding on to the idea that you are capable, even if confidence feels out of reach, even if everyone around you is saying, this is not something you should be doing, maybe you're not capable. The most important thing is to have that belief in yourself, because that is what is going to take you forward. And self-love is having a lot of compassion and love for yourself, because I feel that most of us, we have so much, we are so good to other people. We're really kind and compassionate and have a lot of sympathy, but it's just not the way we are with ourselves. And it's very important to stop judging your days as failures, just to look at it as part of the process. And I think grit is something which is, it's the determination to keep showing up every single day. And when you show up, it could be anything. It's just not for your exam, not just for studying. It's just showing up at the gym, maybe just showing up for work or for studying, whatever. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's so important that you do it for yourself. You're not doing it just to please anyone else, not doing it for anything else. It was the same way for me. And of course, there are days when you may not feel like it, but it's very important to remember that it's the small steps that matters. And resilience is basically the ability to recover, because in your journey, you may get into a really top medical school, you may get into, you may have a career as a researcher, as a physician, but there will be small rejections. You know, maybe it's a paper getting rejected, maybe a grant which is not being, which didn't get approved. Regardless, it's very important to realize that this is just a small chapter and not your entire life. And I think most importantly is patience with the process, and also most importantly with yourself. So in my case, eventually I applied to Johns Hopkins for graduate school, and that sort of became like it sort of reignited my sense of purpose and opened doors, which especially to global health and leadership. So I think the most important, the key takeaways I want to give from my talk today is that your lowest point in life is just a chapter. It's not really your entire journey. So whatever you face in life, whether it's failure, any sort of illness or rejection, these don't really define you unless you let them. Hard work and consistency outweigh talent. I mean, there are so many people who are really smart, really talented, but it is so important to it's the ability to keep showing up, especially when nobody is watching. I think that is a real superpower. Where you are currently in your class doesn't really define how successful you're going to become. So what does that mean? Maybe you are the class topper right now. Maybe you are at the bottom of your class and you feel that you can't really get anywhere in life. And that's not really true at all, because you can always turn your life around. Of course, it won't happen if you don't do anything. It's very important to focus and work hard and all of that, but it is still possible. And success is not a race, so it doesn't have to look the same for everyone, and you are allowed to move at your own pace. Just because someone, they went to college, they went to med school, they got into residency by age, 26, it still doesn't matter as long as, because ultimately at the end, your timing is valid and you need to do it at your own pace. And I would say comparison is a trap, because I know a lot of you are Gen Z here, or most of you, I guess. So it's very important to realize to not compare yourself on social media, because that's a real trap, and that really doesn't, so someone else's success doesn't take away from your own, because we all bloom at different times. And of course, you are more than your GPA, your resume, and once again, more than your social media feed, because that's like really curated life. People just want to post all the nice things about their life. And most importantly, it's very important to remember that you are a whole person. So what that means is that, let's say there are days when you feel very unproductive, you feel unseen, unsure, you still have value on those days. It doesn't mean that you are a failure. So in future, whether you become a doctor, a researcher, or you take a path in your family which no one in your family can understand, it's very important to do it with intention, and most importantly, do it without abandoning yourself. There will be moments ahead when you feel uncertain or alone. In these moments, remember that the most important voice in your life is the one inside your own head. So make it your ally and make it your best friend. And if you're ever in a place where you feel like everything's falling apart, remind yourself that this is not where it ends, this is where I rebuild. So thank you for listening, and thank you for being bold enough to dream. I believe in every one of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gopinath, for that thoughtful keynote and for closing out Medcon with such honesty and passion. I was incredibly moved by your talk because I firsthand experienced how stigmatizing and suffocating it is to be in households where mental health isn't talked about openly. So thank you for being real and honest with us today. And we're grateful for the time and care and experience that you've brought with this space. Please join me in the center of stage to receive your plaque today.
Now, as we near the end of MedCon, we'd like to take a moment to recognize our speakers. Each of you brought something unique to the table today, and we're so grateful for your time and insight. And thank you for sharing your time, wisdom, and honesty. And a big thanks to the Spark team for helping us run everything smoothly. This conference was created with one goal in mind: to make the path to medicine feel a little less confusing, a little more human, and I hope you're walking away with something real. A new idea, a clearer direction, or even just a reminder that you belong. So please feel welcome to hang back and meet the speakers, and definitely don't forget to grab some lunch set up in the back. We can start with the tables at the end, and thank you all again for being a part of this. And don't forget to find me on LinkedIn. It's just Sonika Pilli, my name, and I would love to connect with you. So thank you so much.